When you log into My Learning Space, on the right you'll see a section for links, and that contains the link to MyITLab. When you open this link to MyITLab, you'll be able to find the link to register, and you'll also be able to find the link to directly log into MyITLab after you've created your own account. There is a link at the bottom for Mac users, so Mac users can check here, but I'm also going to show you where you can get to that link in a different location. After you register, you will use the information, and in order to register, you'll use the information from your access code from that you get with purchasing the textbook. I'm going to go directly to the login screen. When I log into MyITLab, I'll see a screen that looks like this. This is what the MyITLab screen looks like. If you're a Windows user, you will need to look at the home computer setup. For Windows users, you'll need to set up your computer using the one-step installer and launch tool, but I will also recommend that you use the installation wizard as well. Those two tools need to be downloaded and installed on your computer. The software does work on Internet Explorer 8 and 9, and there have been problems with Internet Explorer 10. If you are going to be using this under Windows 8 or using Internet Explorer 10, then you'll have to set up your computer use Compatibility Mode. In Internet Explorer 9, Compatibility Mode is an icon at the top of the screen that you can click on to enable, and yet in Internet Explorer 2010, the icon has been removed, and you'll have to find the compatibility setting elsewhere. For Windows users, so that's the setup for Windows users. Back on the home page, for Mac users, you'll see that there's a special link here called Mac Users. So when I click on the Mac Users link, I have to learn that I can read the screen to follow all of these instructions. Some people do have difficulty with this set of instructions, but all of the instructions are clearly laid out here on the screen. The two installations are necessary. The first is one time only. The second must be done each time you access MyITLab. There is a video you can watch, and there is a Mac Solution PDF file that you can read if you have trouble. But the instructions here say download the MS RDC application. That is the Microsoft Remote Desktop application, and you only have to install that once. It would place a small icon on the dock on your Mac that looks like a satellite dish, and that will sit on your computer permanently. The next step is once you have finished installing the RDC application, then you must download and launch the remote desktop files every time you access MyITLab. So yes, that means if you download it at 9 o'clock in the morning and then you try at 10 o'clock, you need to download a new file. If you start one of the trainings and you stop and you log out, then when you go back in, you'll have to download a new file. So you will always have to come to this page to download a new RDP file if you're a Mac user. This software allows you to connect into a virtual machine running Windows so that you can complete the training simulations properly. It'll ask you for your username and password, and it'll log in properly. If you get a window that says that the password doesn't work, then you probably need to download a new RDP file. So that's the solution for Mac users. Otherwise, you can still use your Safari web browser or any web browser under a Mac to log into MyITLab and use your account and view your marks, but you can't use it to do any of the training simulations. That's why you need remote desktop files. If you don't want to go through that setup on your Mac, you can simply use the computers here on campus. So I'm actually on the wrong page. I'm going to click back to MyITLab. So I've already just talked about how to set up your computer for Windows and how to set up your computer for Macs. So you're set up by registering your account using your access code, and then you're going to sign in to MyITLab. Now, after you sign in with your information, it asks for your username and password. Then you will see a screen that doesn't contain any courses, and you'll have to click on Enroll in a Course, and you'll see that it will ask you to enter the course ID. Now the course ID that you need for this course is available in My Learning Space under the news items. So here's the course ID that you need to access the CP102 course in MyITLab. After you enroll in the course, it'll be accessed here, and you can notice that I can click on the down pointing arrow and choose open. If I put my mouse here, nothing happens, but if I move mouse over some of the words or the icon, I do have that mouse pointing arrow, the finger pointing mouse pointer, and I can click on it and it opens. These two sections you won't really see until you log in, and this is essentially what you'll see as MyITLab logged in as a student. We do have a calendar area here, and this calendar area contains the current date as well as due dates that are shown up as little clocks, and you can see that there's a due date on the Friday the 25th and a due date on the 27th. There was a due date on the 20th, but I've already completed it, so the little check marks indicate due dates that have been completed. When I click on one of those dates, it will show only the work that is required for those dates. It does state that the training for Word 1 and Word 2 are due on Sunday, but that is just an early setting that I put in so that you'll be able to get into the habit of completing the training before you come to lab. So the training simulations are done before you come to lab, and then when you come to lab, during your lab period, you'll be doing the tasks. So for next week, you'll be doing the Word 1 training before you come to lab, and you'll be doing the Word 1 task in lab. Here you can also see that the due dates are always set for the Friday at 11:30, so you have to be, whenever your date is set in the lab, you may have labs on a Monday or a Tuesday, that's when your tasks are due. You have to complete your labs, tasks, and your quizzes by the end of your lab period. It's just that Friday at 11:30 is the last day of the labs for that week. So I do again have a due date for the Word 2 training, but after that I don't put any due dates for the Word training or any of the other trainings. Trainings do not have to be done by the due date because they're not worth any marks. You can do trainings as often as you want, as many times as you want, and the attempts are unlimited, but you don't receive any marks. All the marks are tracked so you can see how you're progressing and see how you do on the trainings, but it's really only the tasks that count. So I'm going to click on the training so that you can see what it looks like. So here we are inside the training. It is a simulation of Word and Excel and Access and PowerPoint. So even if it asks you to print something, it's okay to print it because it's never going to actually take money off your account or use up any of your paper because it's simply a simulator. You can see that there I have the button here for Show Me and a hint, and that would be in case you don't know how to answer the questions. There's a button for Questions List, which would show you a list of all the questions that's available, and a Save for Later button. If you come in and you only want to do half the training, you can continue it afterwards. Of course, you don't have access to this button during a task because it has to be completed during your lab time. If you want to give up partway through, you can click the Submit button, but if you complete all of the questions, it'll automatically be submitted for you. We also have a button called Reset, which is very useful in case you end up doing a couple of actions incorrectly and want to restart the question. That is often recommended because it avoids certain bugs that may occur in inside MyITLab. We see here that because this is a training session, there's no time limit, but the labs will have a time limit. And we also do have the fact that in this area here, you would normally see at the number of attempts that you have left over. But because this is a training simulation, you have an unlimited number of attempts. You can also jump back and forth to any of the questions, and if you skip a question, it'll be played automatically for you at the end of the list of questions that you complete. So the first question here, this is an entire question and it has multiple parts to it. So if this was a task, I would only have 5 attempts to complete all of these actions. So the first one says Start Microsoft Word 2010. And let's say I don't know how to do that. Well, I can click the Hint button.
Click the Start button, point to All Programs, click Microsoft Office, and then click Microsoft Word 2010.
Now, I'm not sure if it played that for you, but as it was that brief few seconds ago, it was actually speaking to me these instructions. So now I'm in hint mode, and I have to actually complete the hint in order to continue on, because if I try something different, it'll be known as an incorrect action. So what I can do is I can follow the instructions by clicking on the items that have been highlighted. Click Start, click All Programs, click Microsoft Office, and then click Microsoft Word. And of course that action is correct. So now that I've seen how the task is done, try completing it yourself. So I hit OK. Now I'm no longer in hint mode. Now I actually have to complete the question. Now that task, that set of instructions is kind of complex. There's another way I can open Microsoft Word. I simply double-click on the icon with my left mouse button, and of course it opens Word. So you don't have to follow the instructions that are given in the hint, but it turns out that MyITLab knows 5 different ways to open Microsoft Word, and maybe you don't even know 5 different ways to open Microsoft Word, but it does. However, it doesn't know all of the ways to complete all of the questions. So if you do run into a problem with MyITLab, then it's recommended that you just follow the instructions shown in the hints, or try a different technique, and it would probably be correct. So instead of continuing on here, I'm going to save for this. I'm going to submit this one for grading, and I'll show you what the task looks like. So now that I can see that the task is due on the 25th, and if you're in lab on the 13th, you'll simply just have to jump to the 25th. But I sometimes do actually, instead of showing the calendar view, I usually go to all content. When I go into the all content view, I can actually see the link to the ebook. There's some folder here for some sound bites that you should check out when you get a chance. There's some instructions on MyITLab if you're confused. And then right here is the Prelab Assessment, which you should complete before going to Lab 2. There's no marks for it, but it does test your knowledge of Microsoft Office 2010. Now down here we have the different folders for the different topics that we'll be covering. So I'm just going to go into the Word folder, and we can see that there's the Word 1 training, which I just took a look at. I have the Word 1 task, I have the Word 2 training, and I can't see the Word 2 task, but it would appear here next week because it's a couple of weeks away still. We still have some time. There is also a training session here for the assignment 1. So there may have been changes to assignment 1, and if you needed to have more instructions, then it's been placed here. That may not apply to future years, but it does apply for at least for the fall 20. Well, it might not apply for your year that you're watching this video in, but it could be. So just check and see if there's A1 training available. There's no there won't be a task assigned with it because you're going to actually do the assignment anyway. So I've looked at the training. I'm going to actually get into the task now. I can't really do that as a student the way I'm logged in. I'm just going to have to demonstrate it for you. So I'm going to go in the instructor way, go into the Word folder, go into the Word 1 task, and now I can open the task and preview it. So you're actually going to see the answers and the questions to some of the questions in the first lab task. It's loading up. And now we see the task. The task is almost exactly identical to the training, except now I don't have the hint or the show me buttons. So I also do have my time limit set here, and now I have a number of attempts. Because I'm the instructor, I have 99 attempts. You will only have 5. So let's start Microsoft Word 2010. So I just double click on the icon, and it moves on to the next part of the question. Now in the bottom here, it's in blue letters, you'll see that it asks me to type State University. Everything that is in blue letters I have to type exactly. So if I was to type State University and press Tab, then it's an incorrect action because I didn't type it correctly. I didn't type it in all capital letters. So I'm going to start deleting some of that, and if I press the backspace key too many times, it's an incorrect action. So you do have to be very careful about how you're typing and what you're typing, because now I've just used up 2 attempts while trying to type in the word State University. So I'm going to type in State University. And I noticed that a lot of students press a space bar at the end of any word that they type in. But if you did that, it's an incorrect action, so stop doing that. It's a poor habit. It does say in the instructions at the bottom here of the screen, type State University and press Tab, so I'll press Tab, not the space bar. Now in this particular question, this also points out to actual formal computer training that you probably haven't had yet, and this item is covered in the lab training as well as the videos and the MyITLab training. It says at the insertion point, which is that flashing line on the computer screen, insert the text from the file called 1A program into the from the My Documents folder. So that's actually where the file is stored. It says insert text from the file, but what you might try is going to the file menu because you were doing it wrong, and you go to the file menu and choose Open. When I get to the Open menu, I cannot see the file called 1A program, but I am in the My Documents folder, and it is clearly showing a bunch of files, but not the one I look for. So as a student who has done this question wrong, you might try, oh, well, they mean the Word document, and I'll try to open that, and it's an incorrect action. And then you might, oh no, I used up an attempt. I got to make sure I'm in the My Documents folder. So you'll double click over here under My Documents, even though it already says here that you're in the My Documents folder. And this item is already highlighted, and if you double clicked on it, it's an incorrect action. So make sure you stop doing that. What turns out for this particular question, you're not even supposed to be in this dialog box at all. So I would hit cancel. Now you've attempted to do the question once or twice and you've run into problems. So I would try resetting the question. Notice that you're still at the same part of the question. It does leave all of your attempts remaining, and even if I had moved the cursor back over here for some reason, when I click reset, it'll actually put you in the right spot to complete the question from this point on. So now it just ignores that you've done it wrong a couple times, and that does help MyITLab sometimes reset itself and eliminate any bugs that might be occurring. But right now, it needs to insert text from a file. And as I said, it is covered in training. It's on the Insert tab. In the text group, there's an object section for inserting text from a file. So I can insert text from a file, choose the program file. There it is, 1A program sitting in the My Documents folder, and choose Insert. And that is correct. And I then move on to the next question, and I see that now that I'm at a new question, I have my full number of attempts remaining. And if you're in the task, you'll only have 5 attempts for each question. So that's how the task works, and I would then hit submit. Well, I don't have to hit submit, but when you finish the task, it will submit it automatically, and I'm going to exit this one prematurely. And then it closes the window. Now, as a student, what you can do to find out how well you did in the, first of all, when you go into the Word folder, you can see that my training was not passed, and it thinks I haven't started the task yet, because as a student, I haven't started the Word 1 task. Because I can't, it doesn't open until next week. So it's not available for me right now. There's a section called Grades. When I click Grades, there's the Grades view and the Custom view. The grades are all sorted by the folder if you wanted to, so I can look at it and I see that the Word 1 training I got 6.5% on, or 6.7%. And I haven't done the task yet, but the grades would appear here when they're completed. I can go to Custom View, and I'll only see the task mark, so it's a good way to go about it and view your grades quickly. But in the grades view, back in the Word folder, one thing that is really useful, why did I only get 6.7? Well, let's see. When I move my mouse over the Word 1 training, there's a down pointing arrow, and you can choose View Submissions. When I choose View Submissions, it will show me all of the attempts I've done, as I've been teaching the lab 14 times this week. So I've done this training quite a few times. But what I can see here is I've completed the first training with a little check mark, and I can look to the right and I see under Actions Taken which items have been correct and which items are incorrect. And if I want to, I can actually launch the training for individual questions. So that's just probably going to be available to you. So you can go back and do individual questions one at a time. There's also the methods to complete. So I can see right here for that question 1, Start Microsoft Word 2010, there are 5 different ways that you can open them, including using the keyboard in order to open Microsoft 2010. So that's what you can take a look at if you think maybe you get a 70 or an 80 on the task and you're not happy with it and you want to find out why. Just come back into your gradebook, the grades area, and go to your training or your task and choose View Submissions, and it brings that window up. So I'll close all that out, and that's the difference between the training and the tasks in MyITLab.